And there I was the girl from Suits.
This one's wife. A pathetic response. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. We know that this one's wife and the ginger poodle undertook a round trip of nearly 200 miles to insert themselves into a disaster zone. Having no expertise to offer whatsoever, they took it upon themselves to volunteer, and I use the word volunteer in its most elastic sense, by appearing in Pasadena. They were spotted handing out food packages and speaking to survivors of the wildfires, but in actual fact spent 17 minutes ensuring that they were seen, photographed and filmed as once again the Sussexes engaged in performative behaviour. They turned up and achieved the square root of fuck all with regard to actually helping people, and instead ensured that they were seen. Naturally, this one's wife's narcissism commands that she does this to manage the facade of appearing to care and hiding behind the suggestion that I am from California, I lived in Los Angeles, and therefore I care. We all know that because she's a narcissist, she doesn't, and we know that because she is a narcissist, she utilizes tragedy for her own purposes. Hence, she's aptly referred to as a trauma tourist or a grief ghoul, perhaps also a victim vulture. She can't see this, and therefore maintains that she was simply helping out. And the fuckwits that follow her similarly believe that she was doing good. They fail to comprehend and understand that it's self-serving, self-absorbed, and actually completely unhelpful. Unsurprisingly, criticism followed. It was wholesale across social media and also appeared in some mainstream media titles, which many seized upon the response of Justine Bateman, who, as I explained yesterday, called out their poor behaviour. Nevertheless, such responses naturally threatened this narcissist's need for control, and with all the predictability of the sun rising in the east and the fact that we're all going to die someday, this one's wife cannot help herself but respond to the criticism. A more evolved narcissist, upper mid-range, greater, would likely ignore the criticism. They would just get on with what they need to do. They would see themselves as above it. Now, whilst this one's wife regards herself as superior to everybody around her, the fact that she's a mid-range narcissist means she can't help herself but attempt to respond to it. In popular parlance, she engages in the clapping back, for which she's well known. This is because the criticisms, correct and justified that they are, don't register with her in the way that they might with a non-narcissist. It's far less likely that a non-narcissist would engage in the same behaviour as her for obvious reasons. Nevertheless, if somebody did do something like this and they weren't a narcissist, they would be likely to reflect on their behaviour and realise that they had made a boo-boo, that they had done something wrong and would look to correct it. But this one's wife doesn't have that mechanism. She has no genuine appreciation of her behaviour, no self-awareness. And therefore, rather than think, actually, many people are criticising me for turning up and using it as a photo opportunity, and this is also something that certain news outlets are saying as well. Actually, that's how it appears, isn't it? I've not really thought this through. I've messed up. I need to come clean and do something to make this better. That isn't the way that this one's wife thinks. Her narcissism tells her, you've done nothing wrong. Anybody criticising you is clearly a toxic hater. They're racist, they're misogynists. It's the nasty press out to get you again. You can't do right for doing wrong. You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. And also, you need to put them in their place. And this is where we see a distinction between her narcissism and that of more evolved narcissists. They would largely ignore it. But with this one's wife, it's almost like an itch that has to be scratched. It compels her to respond, and it makes her look all the more ridiculous because it elicited this pathetic response. Eleanor Dye and Taryn Pedler, writing for the Daily Mail, explain that Prince Harry and this one's wife feel offended following Justine Bateman's disparaging comments about their efforts to help with the Los Angeles wildfires. It has been reported, "Oh, die dums, boo-hoo." This one's wife feels offended. Rather than realise she is the one that has caused offence, rather than understand how she has done so, what does she end up doing? She makes it all about her being the victim. The typical behaviour of this mid-range narcissist. I'm offended that you would think that of me. Not, could there actually be some credibility in the allegations and should I engage in some self-examination? No. That option isn't available to her because of her narcissism. Instead, it's, how dare you question my bona fides? Here I am, doing something really good, and you're suggesting it's a photo op. You're an awful human being for suggesting that. Sources told Page 6 that the Duke and Duchess of Sussex find Bateman's comments offensive, and that this one's wife's heart is broken. You have to have a heart for it to be broken, due to her close ties with LA, which she's utilising triangulation to try and make people feel sorry for her in relation to the burning city. The source told the outlet, it's offensive to this one's wife and Harry that anybody would think this is merely a photo opportunity. Well, they're bound to think that. Him because he's thick and her because of her narcissism. This one's wife was born and raised in Los Angeles, so this is and always will be home to her. It can still be home to you, but you don't have to act like a twat. They added that this one's wife is not just a tourist and that her heart is completely broken for all the lives that have been lost and for those whose homes have been destroyed in these fires. That, of course, is cognitive empathy being exhibited on her behalf. She may well have said that through this cognitive empathy for the purposes of trying to elicit sympathy. It, of course, doesn't wash. The non-thinking followers of hers will say, yes, she's right to be offended. She's trying to do something that's good. Anybody else recognises that this is the pathetic response of a crybaby narcissist who has to make it all about her. That when she's called out for that behaviour, has the complete inability to recognise that she's the one at fault and instead has to cry foul and suggest that she's the one that's offended by such behaviour. It is an entirely pathetic response from this one's wife, but hardly a surprise. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.